everybody doing all right? My name is Tony. I am Bobby's son, and Father Dave wanted me to come up and speak to you all about my process of coming to know about the Divine Will and what exactly that's meant for me in my life. First off, I just want to start with a little background. Pretty much a lifelong Catholic, but I've always kind of been a wishy-washy sort of person, especially in my youth. I'd be all into the faith, and then I'd be all out, and then I'd be all in, and then I'd be all out, and this was kind of a repeated cycle until I started to hit my teen years, and then I started to experiment with more serious sin, and I got to this point of sort of a despair that I thought the bar was set too high and I would never reach it, so might as well just go on with a sinful life, because that seemed more fun to me at the time. Very quickly, this really spiraled my life out of control, and as a result of my own personal negligence and sin, I had something really traumatic happen to me that I won't get into, but it was completely my fault why it happened. And because of this trauma, I became a real hateful person, because I was just so mad that this happened to me, and I thought, well, this is over for me. If I'm going to be a bad person, or if I'm going to be a sinful person, I'm going to be the best at it that I can be. Now, I don't know if you guys have read the Confessions of St. Augustine, but there's a point in his life where he stole peaches from a peach tree. And he said it was so profound to him because he wasn't stealing the peaches because he wanted the peaches or because he was hungry, but he wanted sin for its own sake. And that was the point in my life that I was at. So I figured that the fixing this would be getting married after this long life of experiencing the pain of my own sin. I thought that getting married, having a family would fix it. So I did that, and I felt more angry, more sad, because I realized that the hole that I felt in my heart wasn't getting filled. And it made me a bad parent, a bad husband. And so, someone at our table was asking what really changed from that point to this, and it was nothing more than the grace of God. It was so instantaneous. I was coming home from work one day, I was looking for something to read or listen to on YouTube, and there was an end times prophecy. So I clicked on it, it didn't strike my interest, so I listened to it, and it really scared me, because up to this point, God had been prompting me, I believe it was his prompting, of the state of my soul. If you were to die right now, where would you go? If you were to die right now, where would you go? And I would not answer the question. I would always make excuses for, God knows that I love him, this or that, the other. So after listening to that End Times video, I said a rosary, and then it was just me opening the door this much. He completely rushed in the door and flooded me with grace like you would not believe. And then after that, I said another rosary, another rosary, another rosary, and then, drinking from the fountain of God, I just started to crave it more and more. So I started digging more, and then I eventually was introduced through YouTube of Luisa Piccarreta. So I called my mom, and I was like, man, have you heard of this mystic, Luisa Piccarreta? And she goes, well, I've been praying for you in the Divine Will for the last 15, 20 years under her intercession. And so I'm like, wow, this is too much. So one thing led to an next. I started following the instructions of my mom. She said, she didn't force me at all. She was suggesting, which I think I took it better that way than she said, oh, now's my chance. I really got him. You know what I mean? So I got to make him do all these things so he can become a saint. No, so she said, I would suggest, starting with daily readings, maybe meditating on the hours of the Passion. So I took her advice. I started to see the benefits, and then I started to fall back, see the benefits, fall back, and then I said to God, I don't want to be wishy-washy anymore. I want to give myself to you. Please help me do it. If this is really your will to study you and enter into the spirituality in the way that you want, I'm too weak to do it. So you're going to have to give me the grace to stick with it. So I did. And the benefits have just been profound. One of the prompts for me as a speaker was, what does the Divine Will mean to you? What has it done for you? And it's done everything. My wife and I had a terrible marriage. We were resentful of each other. Like I said, I wasn't a great father, and my journey into the Divine Will has led my family with me too. I told the story the last time I gave this talk, and it's uncanny because the changes that you see, especially in my children, they're natural. They're not forced. Like my son, he went to go spend the night at my mom's house. he was laying next to my dad and they were about to go to bed. And he goes, Pop, I'm going to say the rosary before I go to bed because I just sleep so much better. He's 5. And these aren't things that were like, pressing upon him, but it's just the natural growth of grace in our home that we've experienced with these divine will testimonies, writings, and these messages from to Jesus, from Jesus to Louisa. Like I said, I never really stuck to anything in my life, but this influx of grace that God presented me with made me so thirsty for everything that had to do with him that I started my whole, I have a 2-hour commute to work and a 2-hour commute home. I've been doing this for the last 7 years. I filled that from the very second I got in my car to the very second I got out of my car to get back home was filled with divine will, theology, homilies, lectures, everything. And it really stirred in me this love for God that I couldn't contain within myself. I wanted to share it with everyone I could because to share the glory that God had received by taking someone so miserable, so self-hating into someone who finally was filled with that joy that they'd been missing and they'd been feeling such terrible things. Their soul was such terrible things. So I began to start a blog. I have a website and I have an Instagram. The Instagram does a lot better than the blog, but where I take these little truths found in the writings of Louisa and I make them a bit more accessible to people, people like you and I that don't have access to these types of conferences. And it's been a blessing. You can see God's grace at work there because as this whole theology is centered around is removing our will. And before I write anything on that, I say, Lord, please remove anything that I might be seeking from this that is not you. And I write, and then I get crazy messages from people on Instagram saying, wow, I just had this question, or my dad's in the hospital right now, and he's such a holy man, and I was really angry at God, but your testimony, which is not my testimony, by the way, none of the truth that I'm presenting is my own. It's all coming from God. It's profound what God can do through us once we get rid of that human will. I know a lot of people have stories of locutions and inner voices that they hear, and they're such beautiful things. I've had it happen to me maybe once or twice, but they're never positive things. They're always rebukes. And I remember when I first was converting, I was driving to work. I was like, God, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? I'm ready. I'm ready to do great things for you. Blah, 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 blah. And then I got this little voice that said, maybe just be the most loving husband and father you can be. And I thought to myself, no, that's not big enough. And then that was the rebuke was, who are you to tell me what my plan should be for you? And I sank back in my chair. And from that point on, I tried to really remove myself and let God speak through me. So thank you for the time with you guys today. I hope you really give the message of Louisa a chance. Thank you.